morning from the KTN News Center here in the nation's capital, Nairobi. Many thanks for joining us. On this 16th day of May 2021, it has been a momentous week in the clamor to change the Kenyan Constitution through the Building Bridges initiative. This following that huge ruling by the 5-judge High Court bench Thursday night, nullifying the BBI process. We are going to discuss what happens now. The BBI proponents are not taking it lying down. They're saying they will be going to the Court of Appeal. Will an appeal on this be able to salvage the BBI process? In the meantime, given the manner in which the BBI process has been closely linked to 2022 politics, what are some of the political ramifications? What does it mean for President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM party leader Raila Odinga? What does this mean for Deputy President William Ruto, who refused to take charge of a no campaign, but has seen some divisions in a parliamentary vote on the BBI bill? My panelists are here with me. I have with me a lawyer and political strategist, Kipchumba Karori. I have with me humanitarian and development consultant, Cherotich Sei with me, and political analyst, Javas Bigambo. Also joining us later on Zoom will be communication strategist, Mark Bichachi. Be sure to stay with us for the next 120 minutes as we try to get into that judgment and what this means going forward. Let's get right into it. The High Court on Thursday evening declared the BBI illegal, null and void, declaring that President Uhuru Kenyatta overstepped his powers when he formed and initiated the clamor to amend the Constitution of Kenya 2010 through the BBI process. Further, the 5-judge bench declared that the head of state violated Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity. Here's KTN's Shadrach Miti with a summary of the judgment.
Neither the president nor any state organ is permitted under our constitution to initiate constitutional amendments using the popular initiative route.
The shock verdict delivered by Justices Professor Joel Ngugi, George Odunga, Jairus Ngaah, Teresia Matheka and Chacha Mwita upheld a consolidated case by 8 petitioners, which highlighted several legal errors that President Uhuru Kenyatta committed in his desire for constitutional reforms. The court determined that the Steering Committee on Implementation of the Building Bridges Initiative, established by the President on January 3, 2020, and published in a special Gazette issue of January 10, 2020, is unconstitutional and unlawful. As such, it was the finding of the judges that the President does not have authority under the Constitution to initiate changes to the Constitution, and that a constitutional amendment can only be initiated by Parliament through parliamentary initiative under Article 256 of the Constitution, or through popular initiative under Article 257 of the Constitution. The court determined that President Uhuru Kenyatta contravened Chapter 6 of the Constitution while initiating and promoting a constitutional change process contrary to provisions of the Constitution. Consequently, the judges unanimously declared that civil proceedings could be initiated against a sitting president or person performing functions of the president during tenure of office in respect to anything done contrary to the Constitution. Then came another declaration that, being unconstitutional and illegal, the BBI Steering Committee has no legal capacity to initiate constitutional changes under Article 257 of the Constitution, and that the entire BBI process, which culminated in the launch of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, was unconstitutional and it usurped the people's exercise of sovereign power. The court also found fault with the entire BBI process for failing to submit separate and distinct referendum questions to the people as is required in any proposed amendments to the Constitution. A permanent injunction was also issued restraining the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission from undertaking any process in respect of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020.
The IEBC has taken the clearly disingenuous position that its role is limited to merely ascertaining the numbers of registered voters in support of the popular initiative. This position is belied by its own report analyzed above. It is also belied by the text and spirit of the Constitution.
However, an application seeking orders to have President Uhuru Kenyatta refund the public funds used in the process leading to this was declined. A similar fate befell prayers for the order to have the Attorney General and other public officers who authorized the use of public funds in the process to refund the monies. Nevertheless, the five-judge bench determined that the entire process promoted by the BBI committee was unconstitutional, null and void. The prospects of conducting a referendum were also cut short after it was declared that a referendum cannot be carried out until the IEBC conducts a nationwide voter registration. It was also the finding of the judges that the IEBC has no quorum as stipulated by Section 8 of the IEBC Act for the purposes of conducting the proposed referendum, including verification of signatures. The court also found fault with the process of signature collection and the verification of the same. It was declared that in the absence of the legislations or a legal framework to govern collection, presentation and verification of signature and conduct of a referendum in the circumstances of this case, renders attempts to amend the Constitution of Kenya through the Amendment Bill 2020 illegal. Shadrack Miti, KTN News.
Thank you, Shadrack. In a nutshell, that High Court ruling on Thursday. I have with me my panelists in studio, like I said, Mark Bichache, communication strategist, joining us via Zoom. I have with me political analyst Javas Bigambo, humanitarian and development consultant, also a member of the Linda Katiba Group, which has been vehemently opposed to the BBI process, Cherotich Sei, and lawyer and political strategist Kipchumba Karori. Bwana Wakili, let me begin with you. We have spoken about the BBI for the last 3 years, the pros and cons, what will happen, the political ramifications, the legal processes and all of that. Thursday's judgment by that five-judge bench, did you expect it?
Thank you, Ben. As I have always said here, and Cherotich is also here, we have said here time without number that BBI is and remains an unconstitutional process. It remains a process that wants to carry on a coup on the will of the people. It is against the preamble, Article 1, Article 10 of the Constitution, all the way, and even Chapter 7 that talks about leadership in this country. I expected that something had to give. Somebody had to tell the big boys that the highest authority lied with the people. It was not, it doesn't lie with the guns.
No.
So I think it is a decision that we need. All first-year students in law and political classes should have it as a must-read, because in that ruling, you found out that the history of this country, the constitutional history of the country, was narrated and punctuated at any corner. And it even went further to justify why certain articles of the Constitution existed and what the mischief the drafters of Constitution 2010 wanted to cure. So I think the captions in all the 21 orders issued are quite in order, and it is all about what we have been discussing about here. And what also people need to understand is that even as we look and criticize the ruling of the High Court, they need to go back and realize that the High Court also affirmed what the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, both Senate and the National Assembly, talked about, the unconstitutional clauses in that BBI document. It's only that when it came to the floor of Parliament, our MPs and their nature of being cowards, they could not speak to the report.
What is the take on the labeling of the judges as judicial activism, the ruling?
I think also, Ben, we need to come of age with some of these things. When Raila Odinga won at the Supreme Court, he hailed and said the judiciary was the strongest stone that laid around the river of this country. Now that he has lost, we have all manner of things. One question we need to ask ourselves is this. The people, that is Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, they must not expect that everybody will be compliant to their push and pull. And why we saw this as judicial activism is that everybody is complacent with enforcing the Constitution 2010. So when you find 5 men somewhere enforcing Article 159, the judicial authority that they derive from the people, we find it uncomfortable. It is because we are used to mediocrity, where Parliament is given 10,000 or something, and they pass some things. We need to ask ourselves, the question should be, Ben, we need more of the Ngas and the Ngugi and the 5 of them. We need those people.
All right. Cherotich, welcome back to the show. It's been a while since you were here. You are part of Linda Katiba, which has been opposed to this process from the get-go. Are you celebrating?
Thanks. It's good to be back. I've missed Inside Politics. We are celebrating as Wanjiku, as a member of Linda Katiba, as a patriot, as a Kenyan. We are celebrating. You know, it was a mixed week because the week before we saw the National Assembly vote against Wanjiku. And beginning of this week, we saw the Senate also vote against Wanjiku. And we say to ourselves, where will this actually end? Are we going to, before our very eyes, watch the unfolding of a constitutional coup? And so Thursday was met with elation, and we said, for sure, we have patriots. We have those who will look at jurisprudence from the perspective of constitutionalism and respect for the rule of law. And we thank all of us who are part of the 8 consolidated cases, our legal teams and the individuals, the petitioners. We thank the judiciary for upholding the rule of law. They are heroes as far as I'm concerned. And we have, time without number, as Kipchumba said, repeated that this is a Trojan horse, this BBI process. We have talked about the hoodwink that it is, the fact that this is supposedly about Wanjiku, but it really is only about succession. And let me tell you, the way the judgment was read, clearly outlining every single section of violation and how it flew in the face of constitutionalism was an amazing relief for those of us who almost feel like David in the face of Goliath. We were up against state resources being used to drive BBI down our throats. We are ridiculed, we are reviled, we are told to tell us which subsection and article and so on, and basically bamboozling the ordinary Kenyan into believing that, you know what, let's just petition this thing. Let us allow it to pass. But ultimately, the courts ruled in favor of Wanjiku, and we are grateful. We know the battle is not over. And when you said I was a member, I am a member of Linda Katiba. Linda Katiba will exist in perpetuity as a movement to protect and defend the Constitution of Kenya. And the case that I was
part of the part of the petitioners.
Yes, yes. In fact, we were the first petition, the Dave and D petition, yes. And myself and Wanjiru Gekonyo Ikalangele and James Gondi, we were looking at the issue of the basic structure of the Constitution. Is there something called the basic structure doctrine that could apply to Kenya? And it does apply, because what we have said from the beginning is this so-called amendment process was ultimately an overthrow of the Constitution. It was a massacre, a mutilation, a dissection, and a stripping of what is otherwise an excellent document. All documents can be improved, but this is why amendments exist, to correct, to ameliorate, not to massacre and change and disfigure to the extent that we no longer know what the Constitution of Kenya is. So in this regard, we were grateful, and we have been told the basic structure doctrine applies to the Constitution of Kenya, so that the next person who has the harebrained idea to come in and willy-nilly strike sections of the Constitution out and amend and change to suit their nefarious political purposes should stand warned and should understand that we, the people of Kenya, we the Wanjikus, the ones who are used to rubber stamp and validate processes, have said enough is enough. And my message to Kenyans is very much a case of eternal vigilance. Let us be vigilant as citizens. It is we, the people, who have the power, not the political class. And a big congratulations to the legislators who voted no, and a big shame on you to those who voted yes, because they were not voting for Wanjiku. They were voting to suit the exigencies of their respective political parties and what their bosses said, and a big shame on them for that. And we hope that going forward they will understand that Wanjiku is central. Wanjiku took them to parliament. Wanjiku expects them to stand up for what is right for Wanjiku.
All right. Javas, in this conversation, there are two sides of this coin, very much so. We have the people who have been opposed to this process, feeling vindicated, but there's a very large group also, which you belong to, that were pushing for the BBI. I don't know if you are still pushing for the BBI. What are your thoughts on that judgment from a legal and political standpoint?
First, Ben, by way of the decision of the High Court on 14th of May, it demonstrated in no uncertain way that the bank of the rule of law is not bankrupt, and that to that bank, any citizen of this country can approach for protection, for the defense, and the spirit of the rule of law is alive.
Right.
Secondly, the decision itself brings out and brought out clearly a number of critical issues, both political and legal.
Right.
First, the issue, for instance, of the eternity clauses being properly deliberated by the court and affirmed, which is not a strange thing. The question is that the court has demonstrated that it applies to the Kenyan Constitution just as much as it applies to the Constitution of Colombia, to the Constitution of Germany, to the Constitution of the Czech Republic, etc. The examples are numerous. And here I would say that it has brought we, the people of Kenya, to the table of conversation on what is proper, what is important, and what is critical. Let's face it. Of course, personally, I have just been objectively looking at the issues of the BBI and sinking my teeth into the flesh of the process because there are things within the proposed amendments of the Constitution, initially called BBI, that I disagree with. And there are those that you would say that are good.
Right.
Now, when you look at the issues that now are even motivating the appellants to approach the Court of Appeal to have possibly this matter set aside, is one, the question of the involvement of the executive arm of government in this process, and as to whether the president himself was a sponsor to this constitutional amendment process. If we have to appreciate the provisions of Article 260 of the Constitution and the definition, for instance, of who are state officers. For instance, when you look at the two Gazette notices that the Secretary to the Public, the Cabinet gazetted,
yes,
you realize that there was and there is the issue of state officers being involved in this process. When you look at, for example, the argument that has been propounded by, Junet Mohammed, for instance, and Honorable Waweru, that actually they are the sponsors and that them as a secretariat are the sponsors and they are behind this and the president is not party to this, we need to ask ourselves, for instance, are public resources utilized in this process? And the answer to that question is in the affirmative. And so for me, I think the freshness of this judgment is that it brings alive the issue of Kenyans being conscientious. And that's why I appreciate, properly so, the decision in D and others versus Attorney General and Madam Sei here being a part of it, because it now has even enriched properly our politics and even our legal mechanisms. Let us appreciate, for example, even the contribution of Professor Ben Nwabwezwe of Nigeria in his important book of Presidentialism in Commonwealth Africa about the place of constituent power and sovereignty of the people in making sure that, for example, they determine the structure of governance, the manner of being governed, and even the people to govern them.
So you welcome this ruling. You said it's a fresh ruling.
It is an epochal judgment that is very significant, and in fact, it has positioned the judiciary of Kenya as a city upon a hill.
Let's bring in Mark Bichache. Mark, you have been one of the most vocal defenders of this process. Give us your thoughts and the fact that there's so much to get into, but the bench on Thursday, one of the things it said is that this was supposed to be a popular initiative, but it was initiated by the president. It also called out the head of state for violating Chapter 6. Give us your thoughts on some of these issues.
Ben, thanks for having me on the show. And I'd like to start by congratulating my friend and co-panelist, Sei, for winning the case. This is, of course, a momentous ruling by any stretch of the imagination. Now, having said that, we must be very clear that there is a big section of Kenyans, of whom I believe I represent, who are saddened by the ruling from the High Court. We are saddened because we remember what the handshake was about. We remember 2017, and we remember Raila Odinga being sworn in as the people's president. It is not lost on us that this particular ruling has not solved the 9-point agenda, which I think all of us agree that we do have an issue. We have an issue in the country that every 5 years these items mentioned. We have issues in the country about the equitable distribution of resources. We have the desire as a country to have 35% and more of our national resources devolved to our county government. These are issues that remain untouched, and there's a section of this country that is at pain because of the BBI. Just the same as we will celebrate with those who are celebrating, let us not forget that there's a section of Kenyans that is adversely affected by this ruling. Now, do we have reasons to disagree with this ruling? Yes, we do. I'll give you a basic example. If we are to say that the popular initiative is not initiated by the signature of 1 million Kenyans, but can only be initiated and understood initiated if a private citizen holding no public office is to be the person to pursue it to raise 1 million signatures. Are we then saying that only people of substantial means who are private citizens and not politicians can even get to the threshold of 1 million votes? Have we made constitutional making, changing, and an approachable and attainable target for the average Kenyan? Secondly, I totally disagree with the summarization that the 2010 constitution was purely Wanjiku-led. I would like to remind my countrymen that, number one, Raila Odinga was a member of parliament from 1992 all the way to 2030. In fact, he was prime minister and Kibaki was president and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was deputy president, or deputy prime minister rather, when we voted in the 2010 constitution.
All right.
So there are issues here that we feel as a people, as people who promoted the BBI and believe in the 9-point agenda that the BBI brought. There are issues here that we feel need to be addressed, and we do not feel that this ruling was fair by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you disagree with the orders given by the 21 of them, by the 5-judge bench, and the fact that they outlined very clearly some of the things that were amiss, including the entire process itself, what it needs? It needs public participation. It needs all that did not happen. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I disagree fully, and I have a fellow in the High Court who agrees with me. His name is Judge Mativo, who gave a ruling on this matter. Therefore, it is of equal standing as this ruling last year concerning whether the task force was legal and whether the process of the creating of the task force was legal. Now, let's be clear here. The issue here and the bone of contention then is this. It is a question of whether civil society, because that indeed is the only other entity that can drive constitutional change, is the only one that can use the popular initiative, or whether a government institution or person can institute a popular initiative. That is the core of the argument. Now, that argument then, if you read all the articles that are being shown in that particular ruling, you will not find a statement that says a public official, a state officer, shall not start a popular initiative. You will not find it.
All right.
The ruling is based on the history and what these judges felt was the history.
Just hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be coming to the issue of the court of the appeal. What do you say to that, Monakili?
I think, first of all, Ben, we need to remind our viewers that when one High Court judge is sitting, he is not comparable to a bench of 5 judges. There must be respect to that extent. And there must be a reason why as Chief Justice empanels a 5-bench whatever to look at some of these issues. So we cannot create a contradistinction between the two. One is of a higher value as compared to another.
Okay.
It might be persuasive, yes, but what again we must talk to the people is this. When you revisit our constitution, Ben, at the preamble, as you begin to read, we give ourselves and the future, the prosperity of this country, this constitution, noting certain things. And one of it is that the supremacy of the constitution is to two things, is to the God the Almighty and the people of Kenya. Right. That is reiterated in Article 1, is reiterated in Article 10, our national values. One of the cornerstones of the national values is the people themselves. They are supreme. They are above Uhuru Kenyatta. There is one thing that Bichachi must be reminded, and any other person. If we say that BBI was about the 4 million signatures, if today you are to carry cake to this house through a Hanisaka, is that still cake? It is not cake. Right. The components might be cake, but the Hanisaka has destroyed everything.
This is getting, just hold the thought, we need a commercial break. We're coming back shortly. It's getting real. The proponents of the BBI were looking for a non-contested referendum. There is going to be a contest, all right. They are going to the Court of Appeal, they say, tomorrow to challenge that ruling, that judgment by the 5-judge High Court bench. Can that appeal salvage the BBI process? When we come back, we'll get into that. Stay with us.